Jyoti. So stability is purely subjective matter. Stability for everybody is different. Stability for one is not same as that of another person. But as stability from a worldly person is different than a stability from a spiritual seeker. So that's what we are going to see about what stability means for us, or at least, try to see what we think is our stability and what from spirituality stability means, which is Nitya Valvu. So for some, stability is just peace, serenity of which is untroubling, just no expecting no trouble. So I do not want any trouble, just leave me alone kind of thing. For some, it's just a life balance between work and a balance between life, the family life. For some, it could be a sense of satisfaction. We be doing something and we get satisfied and we think that is stability for us. So like this, for each and everybody, stability is going to be different. For lots of people, stability is something which we have achieved and we think it is stable. And this could be an accomplishment of anything, like getting a married life, or getting a stable job. It could be getting a promotion, or it could be building a home. It could be having kids settled in one good job, or it could be grandkids, something to do with grandkids. So all these accomplishments would bring us a sense of satisfaction to us, or eventually, if we think about this, it's nothing but it just brings us some sense of happiness to us. And we think that from there on, life is going to be stable from there. But this happiness, which we get out of it, is a state and it's not an object. And really, this is a feeling, but this has been tied to all these accomplishments or some achievements for us to be reaching to that state. So since this stability is so subjective, and it eventually will get tied to happiness one way or the other, what is positive psychology saying about this happiness? They're separating this into three. They're saying it is nothing but pleasure, engagement, and meaning in life. And pleasure is a short-term happiness, is what positive psychology is saying. Dr. Seligman and multiple other famous psychologists have come up with this kind of formula, this three formula, or we can say these three words: pleasure, engagement, and meaning in life is nothing but happiness. They say this pleasure is a short-term happiness. We want to try a food, we get some pleasure out of it, and that lives short-term. We want to watch a movie, a comedy or action sequence, or whatever, a serial or whatever movie it is, we get some pleasure out of it. So these are short-term pleasures which last for some time, and it's basically using diminishing returns. So the more we start, the more we do it, it diminishes, the pleasure diminishes. I mean, let's say we like puri masala. We eat that for breakfast, we eat that for lunch, we eat that for dinner, and then we again continue the next day, and we keep going like that. then you are going to run when you hear this word, right? Buri masala, you will run. So the more we enjoy it, the less we like it. So the pleasure we get out of it slowly start diminishing it. It slowly degrades. So the next kind of pleasure, what they are saying, is called engagement. These are a little bit more, it lasts a little bit more. The pleasure or the happiness, what we get out of it, is a little bit more than the short-term pleasures. These are something which is similar to what we do on a daily basis, which gives us really a sense of satisfaction, like our work. So this is why it is said that we want to definitely do something which we really like on a day-to-day basis, because it gives us a sense of satisfaction of doing that work. Otherwise, our life is going to be miserable. If we try to do some work just for the sake of doing it or just for money, then it's going to turn miserable, because we are going to be engaged on something. So this kind of engagement build a sense of satisfaction. Or even if it's not work, you might do some kind of action, and that gives you a sense of satisfaction. And this satisfaction gives you more happiness than the short-term pleasure, what we were talking before. The third one, what they are saying is the meaning in life. Like, if there is a purpose to life, or there is some goal in life, and we go after it, we pursue after that life, and that gives a way better happiness than the rest of the others, is what positive psychology is saying. And that lasts for some more time than the engagement and the pleasure. And depending on our goal, whatever goal it is, once we achieve that goal, it lasts for a long time, definitely, than the food what we eat, or than the action then we had done. And depending on the goal, that's good for us. So this is how positive psychology treats happiness to be. But happiness is a state. It's not derived from any objects. It's a state of being, definitely. It's not something which we associate with a task and get happy with it. In Agaval Perumanar is saying, like, Ulaginil uyirgal kurum idayurellam vilaga ni adaindu vilaguga magilga. So try to fix all impediments for all the lives in the world, and through which you can attain the happiness. So that is from the spirituality perspective. So let's bring here something else too, what's called as content, being content on something. So when we talk about content, or the state of being content, this is synonymous with also being satisfied with what we have currently, right? But at the same time, this could also be, does this mean that don't go for goals, or shouldn't I go after big goals? Should I be satisfied with what I have and settle for something and just be lazy? That's not what it really means. Contentment is a virtue. But you might have heard of this story of a little kid, which we can say about. This is how the story goes. There was this young athletic boy. And this boy was really hungry for success. And winning is everything for him. And that was his only goal in his life. And this athletic boy has been preparing for this running competition. There are lots of audiences in the ground, everybody watching for this race and getting prepared. There was also a wise man in that audience too. The race started. This little boy gave his complete strength and power. He just ran with his full power and he won the race. The crowd was cheering. This boy was so happy. He felt proud. So he was ready for the second round. The second round started. This time, the competition is a little bit fierce. He's competing with a little bit more people who are challenging to him. This time the race started. He gave his full potential with all his power, with all his focus and concentration. Again, he won because that is what he worked for. Every day, day in, day out, he worked for this. He worked for it and he won the second round too. The crowd cheered. But during this race, this wise man was just silent watching this race. This kid was really happy again. He felt so proud with this race. So the wise man went and proposed a challenge to this kid. He said, I have a challenge for you. And in this challenge, you are going to race with a blind person and an older person. The kid said, this is no race for me. This is a cakewalk. It's very easy. He said, go ahead and race and we'll work out after that. So the race started. The kid was the only person crossing the finish line. The blind man and the old woman were in the starting line. And this time, there was no cheering from the crowd. The crowd remained silent. So the kid came to the wise man and asked, why aren't they cheering now? So this old woman and the old man and the blind woman, they are still in the starting line. And this kid only in the finishing line and the crowd not cheering. The wise woman, the wise person answered the kid, like, this time, try to do this. Take both of them with you and then cross the line together. So the kid did the same thing. He just holded one person in the left arm, the other person with the right arm, and just slowly this time tried to proceed the race. This has been the slowest race he had gone through. And this time, all three crossed the finish line. At the end of the race, the crowd was ecstatic. Everybody was cheering. But the kid had another question this time to the wise person, like, who are these audiences cheering for? Are they cheering for me? Or are they cheering for the other people who I am supporting? So the wise man told the kid, so the race what you had won before is totally different than the race what you did right now. So this time they are not cheering for you and you winning the race. And he started saying, It's not always too important and to win the race. It is what it matters is how we run the race. So in life too, it is not important how every time we win the race. It is how we basically run this race. So contentment is about like this. It's a sattvic virtue. It's a virtue that propels all this unnecessary noise towards these worldly activities. It might look like we are losing something, but it's not that. It is the one which gives us strength. It's the one which gives us peace to the mind. It takes off all the selfishness what we have. It's the one which drives us towards the divine contemplation. It turns all of our energy to our inner channels. Things are going to be energetic from here on. We get the inner energy from it, from following contemplation, because we have switched off all the outside activities. So the strength what we get out of this contemplation is deep rooted, and that's what yogis, sadhus, bhikshas, and everybody else gets, the saints, everybody gets out of it. This actually is the path towards self-realization. So we are trying to search for stability in this unstable, unchanging world. This world is everything. It's changing every time, and we are trying to look for stability. But let's say we have a higher goal which we should have, and we have achieved this goal. We have accomplished this thing. But are we going to stop with this? Our target is also moving. We have a moving target as well. So with this moving target in this unstable, changing, how are we going to find stability in it? So it is said that this is not going to give us a stability. This is not the stability what we are looking for, and the stability, the blissfulness what we are going to get out is basically going to come out of the divinity what's inside us. And directly or indirectly, what we are asking for is enlightenment. We are asking for realization. Is how we are asking for blissfulness. I mean, the blissfulness what we haven't really experienced, what really doesn't degrade. And this kind of blissfulness is only attained using spirituality. And Vallal Perumanar actually has this three kind of life, Nitya Valvu, what Perumanar is referring to. And that's what everyone should try to achieve in their life. And through this, we'll be successful and we'll be blissful. And that is what actually one's soul's purpose is. And we are going to see what Perumanar is saying. The first one, what's he saying is blissful life pertaining to this world. We are going to see this in details. The second one, what Perumanar is saying is blissful life pertaining to other world. When it is said as other world, it doesn't mean that we are going to somewhere outside of this earth. It is in the same earth. It's called Marumai Inba Valvu. First one is Immai Inba Valvu. So Immai Inba Valvu, Marumai Inba Valvu. The third one is absolute natural bliss, Perinba Valvu, as Perumanar calls. So these are the three different kind of life which a soul has to reach before we leave the life from this earth. So that is what Permanar is saying. And if we are able to do this, we'll obtain the natural bliss of God, and there is no end for this life. So that's what we are going to see in details. So what we are going to see here is a definition on what each of this means and what is the benefit of achieving this kind of life, and what are the qualities? How do we say that one has achieved so and so? Because what we need is always a measurement, a tangible way to say that this thing has already been achieved. And Vallal Permana is always like that. He proposes something. He says, this is what we have to do. He advises us. And at the same time, he says, you follow it, this is what you get. And that will be a tangible one. That is something which we would be able to measure out of it. So let's get to the first life, what Permanar is saying. And that is Immai Inba Valvu. This one, lots of people would have experienced, and we are experiencing it, is having the body and mental faculties, and with little efforts, we enjoy the worldly pleasures for a few days. So we have a healthy body, we have a healthy mind, and with some effort, we are trying to enjoy this worldly pleasures for a few days. That's what Permana is saying. So Permana is saying not to be 100% spiritual, but there is the balance in here. So you enjoy, right? Midabogam say that. So you enjoy, but have that boundary in it. There is some disciplines. So you just follow it and enjoy. So what will be the benefit derived from this kind of life is we won't have any kind of disabilities. The person who actually is going through this kind of life will not have any shortage of wealth. He's happy, he enjoys everything, he possesses the right knowledge, he is unhindered by the main basic life needs like hunger. He's not hungry, he has enough wealth to support himself and the others. He is free of disease. He is free of, or he doesn't have to think about getting himself killed, because there are even some lives where, people have to think, or they have to go through all these trauma and be tensed. So it's not like that. It's surrounded by relatives, friends, happy family, happy spouse, and worthy descendants, kids, daughters, sons, and one experiences the happiness arising out of these small little things. Now we can correlate this with the positive psychology of the first one, what they were saying about the little pleasure arising out of it. Yes, we want to enjoy, we see a relative, we get happiness out of it, but the relative stays for a very long time. I don't know how we feel. might not be the right example, but I'm just saying, but it's subjective for different people. But we get happiness out of it, right? These little things gives happiness out of it. So we enjoy all these things. And what are the qualities which the person possess, who is enjoying this kind of life, and which lots of people are enjoying it. They should possess good characters like kindness. They have good disciplines. They are humble. They are truthful. They are patience and purity, suktam, not lying, leading to praiseworthy life. So these are all the qualities which that person possesses to enjoy this kind of life. But we got to move to the next phase of life after enjoying this phase. And that phase is what we call as Maruma Inba Valvu, which is the life pertaining to other world. So it is the transition of life from one place to other. So here, what Perumanar says by definition is like the body and mind, what the person has is a little bit higher. And to experience a such higher mindset and which higher body and a higher superior body, there has to be more effort done for it. And to experience, and the bliss experienced from this is also higher than what we had seen before, because it lasts for more days. It's not short. So that is by definition what this Marumayinba Valvu or this kind of blissfulness life is. And what we can take is experience from saints and sadhus, the blissfulness, what they experience from it. It's the same as that. And the benefit out of this one is denoted by the benefit from the worldly bliss. So they get all the worldly bliss plus the pure spiritual bliss at an elevated level for days. So this bliss lasts for days. And when we look at the qualities, we will see that again, they'll possess all the qualities of the first kind of life, and their efforts are unhindered. Meaning, like if we try to go and see if they deviate from what they are not deviated, right? They have their own stable mind, their stability of mind. They're not going to be up and downs in there. So that is so. And when at this state of mind, whatever they are wishing, whatever their efforts are going to be at ease in here. And we are not going to spoil their mood. They do not have something like a good mood or a bad mood. It's all going to be a stable mood. So this is what something which we should strive for, which is the second transition, which Perumanar is saying. And this kind of bliss lasts for days and days. And that is why they are not worried that much about the world. And the third one, what Perumanar is referring to, is the natural absolute bliss. This is the bliss of nature. This is the bliss of God. This is the natural manifestation of the all-pervading power of the grace, right? So this is, we are comparing ourselves to the omnipresent, who is everywhere, who is the creator, who is doing everything for us, who is actually the root of all sorts of enjoyment, who is actually the pervading power, who is the source of truth. So this unique great bliss, how do we achieve it? Or what do we benefit from it? During this stage, there is perfect unity. That's what Perumanar says. Everything in the world is same thing as you. So the one and every other life is same as that in the universe. There is no duality in here, because this is the complete merge we are talking about. And during this transformation, actually, Permaner says that the transformation of physical body even happens. Basically, the skin, the nerves, the bones, the muscle, blood, semen, everything gets transformed into what it's called as like a pure body, or what we can refer to as a golden body. And there is this body called as subtle body, or we can call as Pranavadegam, and there's cosmic body. And during this stage, there is nothing which hinders all the 5 elements. There is nothing which hinders us. And if we take a look into Agaval, right, this transformation of body, Perumanar says his own experience. He says this: Tolelam குலைந்திட சூழ் நரம்பனைத்தும் மேலெல்லாம் கட்டவை விட்டு விட்டு இயங்கிட. So his skin started disintegrating and his nerves started projecting out. என்பெல்லாம் நெக்கு நெக்கியலிடை என்பெல்லாம் நெக்கு நெக்கியலிடை நெகிழ்ந்திட மென்புடை தசையெல்லாம் மெய்யுற தளர்ந்திட. So what happens here is the bones have started being flexible. So flexible like what? Like flexible like babies. So you can see babies' bones are pretty flexible. They can twist and turn their hands and legs. At the same time, hard too. And the muscles have started to relax. Rattam anaithum ulli rattam anaithum இட சுக்கிலம் உரைத்திட பந்தித்து ஒரு திரள் ஆயிட. So rattam and sukilam, which is basically the blood and semen, had started clotting. So when we think about this, this is actually out of nature, right? This is something which is not even in our experience. So anytime I go through this, it just gives that feeling like, how is this even possible? How was the experience Perumanar was going through this thing? But this kind of transformation in the body is possible, and he was able to do it. And he says, Madalellam மூளை மலர்ந்திட அமுதம் உடலெல்லாம் ஊற்றெடு தோடி நிரம்பிட. So this is something which we had seen in multiple pictures, where there are flowers in the head, right? We can see that. So what happens here is nectar started flowing throughout his body. So there is no blood. There is some kind of nectar which flows throughout this body, and Perumanar goes like this, and it says like, oh, it started sweating and my face has started blossoming. There is complete sense of peace in life. The happiness came from inside, and all hairs started falling and tears were flowing all over my body. And he says, Arupperunjodi, you gave yourself to me in the form of grace light. And this kind of chemical change happened to me, he said. So he gives out his experience, what had happened when the transformation of body happens. So this is the last one. This is the absolute natural bliss which we can achieve in that kind of life which Perumanar had experienced and had told us how to do it. But next, let's go over and see how we can achieve this thing, right? I mean, once we've seen like these are the different types of life, how do we achieve this? So we have to know about ourselves. So Satya Vedandam ellam Sittandam ellam Tanitani mel unardunardum Tannai unardar karidai. So one could know Vedandam, Siddhandam, everything, but if that person didn't know oneself, then it's not of that use. So we got to know about oneself. Perumanar says, Tannai arindu tanakkadharama irukindra talaivanayum aridal. So one has to know oneself before understanding the supreme power. So that is important. Then following Sanmargan disciplines. And when talking about Sanmargan disciplines, we had gone through this in multiple sessions. It's compassionate life discipline, discipline for the body, discipline for the mind, discipline for the life, discipline for the soul. So all these basic disciplines are essential. Also, Perumanar says, for compassion, we need to have oneness. And for oneness comes where the intelligence and discipline actually are rendezvous in one place. So we have to use our intellect basically in following these disciplines. And Perumanar also says that is actually when we are by ourselves. But when we are with the others, with other people, it's very important. We have to be tolerant and patient and hold to our patience. And even if others create problems, we do not want to burn up, right? And then explode. And then we do not want to react. We want to still hold our patience. So these are the kind of teachings which help us tune ourselves, tune our mind, and we will start seeing a difference in ourselves. So let's go to the third one. So there is something called as an application or request to Arupperunjodi, to the Supreme Lord. And here Perumanar gives us some very great points about some of the basic things which we do is praying, even how to pray. Are we even praying correctly? Or what is the best methodology for us to pray in here? So Perumanar says, Perumanar goes, if we look at Thiruvarutpa, we can say it is always about praising. It is always about praising the God. But when we go for pray, it is like, it's a different thing, right? It's like, unakenna, enakenna, right? What we need and what we can give out of that. So we approach in a little bit different way. So, but this one, how we have to follow this is different. We have to praise the Lord. You can see in here how he goes like, Iyarkai unmai endrum, Iyarkai arvinar endrum, Iyarkai inbinar endrum, Nirgunar endrum, Sirgunar endrum, Nityar endrum, Satyar endrum, Egar endrum, Anegar endrum. So it just keeps on going like this. And it's beautiful to just read this thing. It's natural truth because Aruperinjodi is nature. It's nothing but nature. It's natural intellect, natural bliss, without form, without qualities, boundless, no constraint, everlasting, purest, omnipresent, present everywhere, miracle, omnipotent, have the potential to do everything, extremely compassionate. And finally, he puts it, there is no other word, there is no more words. There are lots of other words which I can keep going with it because it can be said in words. That's the truth behind it. So praising it is the first thing. And then we have to criticize ourselves. And then Perumanar says, in this cosmos, I am the size of a dust with the least knowledge. But please accept my prayer, he says. With the least knowledge, I'm trying to pray, but accept this prayer. And what that is a state which we have to be in there. Because the prayer has a state in here. We have to think about it. Because when we think only, we will have some feelings on it. So, ninaindu, unarந்து, negilந்து, அன்பேல் நிறைந்து ஊற்றெலும் கண்ணீர் அதனால் உடம்பு நனைந்து அருளமுதே நன்னிதியே ஞான நடத்தரசே என்னுரிமை நாயகனே. He goes like that. So the more we think, the more we feel. And then we have to unite with him. And then we experience with it. He also says that actually towards the end. Like a summary, right? He says, எங்கும் பூரணராகி விளங்குகின்ற ஓர் உண்மை கடவுள் உண்டென்றும் அக்கடவுளை உண்மை அன்பால் கருத்தில் கருதி வழிபாடு செய்யின் அக்கடவுள் திருவருள் நமது கருத்தின் கண் வெளிப்பட்டு விளங்கும் என்றும். So there is only one God who is omnipresent. Pray to him with sincere love consciously. So when the prayer is done with sincere love and being conscious, that grace is revealed through that same conscious. And we learn from it, allowing, and that is what is going to help us live extended life, which is free of fear, pain, old age, and death, living a blissful life without being bounded by anything, by place, space, or time, or activity. So two things, knowing oneself, disciplines, and bhakti. And bhakti is nothing but true love. We can say true love is nothing but bhakti. It's nothing but that. It's sincere true love and being consciously praying. And we know how to pray it. And this is how Perumanar says prayer should be done. So with this, I think I had a couple of things, but since we're running out of time, we can stop the session at this point, and I'll hand this over to Gandhi and Ayya.